this gothic underground city. We all sin. If I bring a couple rounds with me, then we all win.
Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with our very last episode of Into the Bad Zones. This was a limited series that was dedicated to our Necromunda Outlanders campaign, and this is battle report number 17. It is a standoff scenario that is fought between Dark Lord Mac as well as myself. Dark Lord Mac is bringing his gang, Soylent Green, his Nurgle corrupted Corpse Guild Outcast gang, and I will be bringing the Gung-Ho guns, my House Escher Outcast gang. So we have now completed 17 battle reports for this campaign season. We've run through all of our gangs and all the scenarios for the Outlanders campaign. Our settlements have been built, and now it's down to the championship game to figure out once and for all who holds sway over the Badzones of Hive Primus. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will show you photos of both gangs, as well as the gang roster for both gangs as well. If you want to see exactly what we're taking for this battle report, you may pause and take a look at your own leisure. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about the scenario rules real quick. The scenario is standoff, and both gangs receive their entire rosters for this battle report. So all of our different assets, all of our hired guns, everything that we want to throw on this one is what we'll be able to work with for this scenario. The objective is to score the most victory points in the battle, and you earn 3 victory points for taking out leaders, 2 victory points for taking out champions, and 1 victory point for taking everybody else out. Whoever has the most victory points by the end of the battle is the winner. At the same time, you also receive rewards as well. You earn D6 times 10 credits for the winner, and D3 times 5 credits for the loser. And of course, in case of there's a draw, everyone earns D6 times 5 credits. As for experience, each participant earns 1 point of experience point, while the leading lane leader earns an additional experience point as well. As for reputation, whoever wins earns 2 points reputation to their gang, and anybody bows out loses 1 point of reputation as well. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go ahead and talk about deployments. With our deployments, we'll be starting with my gang, the Gung-Ho guns, my House Escher Outcast gang. Leading up in the front using our infiltrate special rules are Scabs, that's my special character, as well as Arbalista Rain Catalyst. She's also a hired gun bounty hunter that I use for my gang. Over here on the left hand side, I have my Outcast champion Preston Garvey, as well as my 2 Outcast Hive Scums, One Shot Blonde and Zero. And here's my second champion, Sheik Shabazz, with my 2 Outcast Hive Scum, Blonde, Mayday, as well as Trixie. Meanwhile, down below, I have my leader, that is Cal Jericho, the special character, followed by Scalp Taker, as well as Deadhead Lee. I also have Amarista de Catalyst, the special character bounty hunter, as well as Crimson Wind, as well as Mad Teddy. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for my gang on this one. Alright, so moving on to Dark Lord Mac's deployment real quick. Starting over here on the left-hand side of his deployment area, he's got like a little 4-man fire team. Up in the front is the Chaos Spawn Fiddlesticks, followed by Erg as well as Malignus, which are the 2 normal Hive Scum. And in the back we have Sepsimus, which is a Corpse Grinder. Over here on the right-hand side we have Thraxia Unclean, the Chaos Spawn, taking point with Rodicus and Festus, which are 2 normal Hive Scum. In the back there we have Wretchling, which is the Bone Scrivener. Over here on this top level is another 3-man fire team. In the very back, that is Fecula Flyblown, who's the Pale Consort, who's also the leader of this game. We also have Gerlach, the champion, over the plasma gun up the front, followed by Pestis, who's taking point. And then finally over here we have another 4-man fire team. In the front, that is Direson, the Chaos Spawn, followed by Reek and Bubo, which are 2 Hive Scum, followed by Tulok the Broken, which is also a Corpse Grinder. So now that we have deployment for both the Soylent Green as well as the Gung-Ho guns, we go directly to top of turn number 1, and both Dark Lord Mac and I roll off our initiative to see which of us will have priority. And that takes us directly to the top turn number 1, and I magic get the initiative on this one, so the Gung-Ho guns will be going first. So the first thing I actually do is I activate Abralista Rain Catalyst. As you can see, she's kind of down right now, which tells you what happens later on the turn. So the first thing I do is I have her take aim with her Needle Long Rifle and another basic action open fire with it, hitting it directly into Fiddlesticks, which is the Chaos one over there. I managed to hit that guy as well, and because it's a toxic weapon, he had to take a toughness check, which he failed. In that situation, because that he does go he goes down with a serious injury, so he's currently bleeding out. And because he was seriously injured within 3 inches of the rest of his gang members, as you can see on the other side, to the gang members, Erg as well as Malignus failed their cool test, and they broke, and they hid right behind this chemical tank with the MCI Chemical Works. Meanwhile, Sepsimus, which is the corpse grinder though, he stands his ground and is not really phased by all that much, so he's perfectly fine. So, from going back to Dark Lord Mac, he then activates Specula Flyblown, who does a group activation with Pustus. Pustus does a double movement forward across this bridge, heading directly towards the fuel depot. And at the same time, she uses her Overseer ability directly onto Gerlach. Gerlach is the champ who's armed with a plasma gun with a telescopic sight. This is where I realized I made a huge mistake with my deployment. Gerlach opens fire twice with his plasma gun. Managed to hit my poor guy's scabs here. Managed to hit him once, as well as put a serious injury on him, as well as a flesh wound, so he is currently going down. Lucky for me, Arbalesta did pass her cool test, so no harm, no foul there. But because he also has a double set of activations, because he's got the Overseer ability, he opens fire from his balcony directly into Arbalesta Rain Catalyst, managed to hit her, as well as put a serious injury on her as well. And the reason why that was so devastating is because he's got a telescopic sight on his plasma gun, which means he gets close range bonuses, even firing at long range, and that was how I was able to get past that cover and everything like that. So that was absolutely brutal. Plus, he took a basic action aim both times as well, so that way he could open fire with his weapon and get that +1 to hit, and that totally devastated over here in my front. So that part was kind of sad. And that pretty much makes up the activation so far for turn number 1. So continuing on with the rest of our activations for turn number 1, there was a couple of activations that took place, so we just kind of held off until we got done moving as much as we wanted to before moving on real quick. So if you're wondering why so many people are moving around for the most part, that's pretty much why. So if starting off with my buddy Dark Lord Mac, as you can see in this photo, he started moving a couple of his fighters forward. He's got Thraxian Clean taking point, followed by Sepsimus in the back at the same time right behind him. That character's name, I believe that character's name is Rodicus' name. Those guys start taking the point, making their way forward as quick as can, using this kind of stone pillar as kind of like cover. Meanwhile, over here on the other side of the battlefield, as you can see here, we have Direson taking point, which is the Chaos Spawn, followed by Tulok the Broken. He's also moving forward right here using this vehicle as cover. And that's pretty much so far with Dark Lord Mac's activations up to this point. As for my activations, as you can see, first thing I do, of course, is I move up both Crimson Wind as well as Mad Teddy. Those guys do double movements to go directly to the top of this walkway for the fuel depot, so that way I can intercept, what's his name? Pustus is his name. Right over here on the left-hand side as well, I got Almarista de Catalyst, does double movements directly in the top of this one, so that way I can start putting some good close combat goodness on my enemies. At the same time, we do a group activation with Cal Jericho. He activates both Deadhead Lee as well as Scalp Taker. Those guys do double movements directly to the side next to this chemical depot. At the same time, Cal Jericho also moves up to the base of the fuel depot as well. And that pretty much makes up our activations thus far for turn number 1. So continuing on with our turn number 1, the first thing I do, of course, is I activate One Shot Blonde. One Shot Blonde is a simple movement to roll directly at the edge of the corpse grinder here, and decides to open fire the last shot last gun directly into Thraxian Clean, which is the Chaos Spawn back over there. I do manage to hit him as well as put a wound on him, but I only pin him for that most part, so that part was actually kind of cool as well. Meanwhile, jumping over here on the other side of the battlefield at the same time, as you can see, my friend Dark Lord Mac does start moving up his forces forward. First thing he actually does, he actually activates Reek. Reek does a simple movement forward using his normal moon allowance and open fire with his hotshot last gun with his telescopic sight directly into Crimson Wind. Managed to hit him, but failed to wound him, so he's only pinned at that point. Meanwhile, jumping back to my next activation over here with Zero. Zero, of course, does exactly the same thing, opening fire with his hotshot last gun directly towards Sepsimus, who's behind that little corner there. Unfortunately for me, though, I do miss my shot, so because that, I won't be able to hit him, however. So that part was kind of sad. Meanwhile, going back to the other side over here, we have that character's name is Bubo. Bubo does also move a normal moon allowance forward with his simple action and does a basic action to open fire with his hotshot rifle directly into Mad Teddy. Does manage to hit Mad Teddy as well as wound him. Luckily for me, though, he only got a flesh wound, so he can still fight, he can still move, still very much a threat. And I did pass his initiative test to make sure he doesn't fall off the edge of this gantry walkway as well, which is pretty nice. And that pretty much makes up our activations for turn number 1 so far. So, finishing up the very last of our activations for turn number 1, the next activation I do, of course, is to activate Preston Garvey. Preston Garvey fires twice, using his fast shot ability to open fire with his long rifle infrared sight directly into Septimus. So as you can see here in the top here, Septimus does get hit the first time, but I failed to wound him, so he's only currently pinned right now as well. I do try to fire my second shot, but unfortunately for me, though, I missed my second shot, so not much really happens from there. Now from that point on, Dark Lord Mac then activates his last activation, which is the Wretchling, who does a group activation with Festus. Festus does a double move forward directly towards the fuel depot, trying to start putting up his assault forward. At the same time, the Wretchling uses his fast shot ability to fire smoke grenades directly next to this vehicle right over here on the top, creating kind of like a smoke screen to stop my fighters who are over here from actually shooting through the smoke at this point. Now it doesn't do him actually much good because my 2 champions have infrared sights, but the rest of my gang only has telescopic sights. So as you can see, for the rest of the turn, I just kind of move up Sheik Shabazz as well as Mayday as well as Trixie up to the front here, so that way they can start putting in some shots later on in the turns. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. So during the end phase, of course, neither of us failed our bottle test, so we're perfectly fine over there. However, over here on the top of the little water tower, the crow's nest we have up here, Scabs actually makes a flesh wound roll. So because he has 2 flesh wounds on him now, so he's only toughness 1. However, though, he can still fight, he can still shoot, which pretty much makes him a deadly threat, especially since he's got a plasma gun. Unfortunately, Arabella, Rain Catalyst, though, is still seriously injured, so she's still laying on the ground. She's still bleeding out as well. Meanwhile, Fiddlesticks is going exactly the same thing. He's bleeding out, and he is not doing very well either, so he is still seriously injured. And meanwhile, on the other side of the table here, behind this chemical work, those 2 fighters, Erg as well as Malignus, have failed their nerf test, so because of that, they're still broken, and they're still hiding out. And that pretty much makes up turn number 1 for this one. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Dark Lord Mac and I roll off for priority to see which of us will be going first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top of turn number 2, and I get the initiative once again. So the first thing I do, of course, I activate Crimson Wind. Crimson Wind does a simple action to get back on his feet again to escape pinning, and another basic action, open fire with his bow, firing a poison arrow shot, not poison arrow, an acid shot directly into Pustus. Managed to hit that guy, also managed to put the blaze condition on him as well. Unfortunately, I only put a flesh wound on him from the actual arrow. He did fall off of the game plank, but he managed to survive without any injuries, so he is currently burning, pinned, and he's also got a flesh wound, so that guy is in all kinds of pain. Meanwhile, over here on the left-hand side of the battlefield, as you can see, Thraxia Unclean gets activated next. He does a simple action to get back on his feet again to escape pinning, and does another simple action forward to move directly to the base of the fuel depot. From that moment on, I then move on directly towards Mad Teddy. Mad Teddy does a simple action to get back on his feet again, and another simple action to move up 5 inches as normal moon allowance, that way I can make room for Cal Jericho. Now while all that was taking place, we go to Dark Lord Mac, and Dark Lord Mac goes next. He then activates Fecula Flyblown, who uses her Overseer ability directly onto Gerlach. Gerlach does his first set of movements, one simple movement to move directly to in front of this gangplank, and now his plan now is to open fire this plasma gun directly onto my 2 Hive Scum right there. And I realized I made a huge tactical error, so we'll be back to talk about exactly what happens after that takes place. So Goldcock moves up forward and opens fire with his plasma gun directly into Mad Teddy. Unfortunately for me, he does manage to take Mad Teddy out of action with a humiliating injury, so because of that, he will lose 1 to his cool as well as to his leadership as well. At the same time, causing a chain reaction, causing Crimson Wind to break his nerve and actually flee down directly to the base of the fuel depot in order to escape the hell that is coming his way. Now, luckily for me, what that means is that there's no more targets that Golok can actually shoot at because everybody's out of range or he has no line of sight on them. So because of that, he kind of wastes his Overseer ability on that one, but that was perfectly great because that pretty much freed me up from there. Now from that point on, basically what I did next, I then activated Deadhead Lee. Deadhead Lee took a basic action aim with his plasma gun, another basic action open fire directly onto Dire Song. As you can see, managed to put 2 wounds directly onto Dire Song as well as pin him at the same time. So that part is pretty cool. Meanwhile, moving over to my friend Dark Lord Mac, he then activates Festus. Festus does a double move forward directly to the base of the fuel depot, so that we can take cover and continue on with his assault. And then from there, I then activate Scabs. Scabs does a simple action to get back on his feet again, and another basic action open fire with his plasma gun directly into Thraxia Unclean. Managed to put a serious injury on that Chaos Spawn as well as a flesh wound, so that part was amazing. And that so far makes up our activations for turn number 2 thus far. Alright, so this portion of the action phase is several activations later, so let's go and talk about exactly what ended up happening. So first of all, for the Corpse Guild, as you can see, pretty much Dark Lord Mac starts taking the offensive. What's his name? Turlock the Broken, Reek, as well as Bubo move out double movements as quick as they can, taking cover behind this little fighting position, as well as his fighting vehicle. Dire Song also used a simple action to get back on his feet again to escape pinning, and he moved up forward his Necromunda Outlander before he was pinned again as well. So that's what's taking place over here on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, for my activation, what I decided to do is you can notice that Crimson Wind is missing his broken icon, and the reason why is because Cal Jericho has his inspiration ability, which means that when he's activated, if anybody fails a cool test within 6 inches, he can take a leadership test. If that's passed, then that cool test is passed as well. So because of that, Crimson Wind earns himself a bonus experience point for recovering his nerve. Meanwhile, Cal Jericho does a double movement backwards right behind this barrier, so that way he can take cover, as well as the same thing happens with Scalp Taker. Scalp Taker does a simple movement to move from the back behind this Hesco barrier, and another basic action, open fire with his hotshot last gun, pinning Dire Song at the same time. And the reason why that is happening is because I'm realizing now that maybe taking the offensive is actually pretty much a bad idea. So instead what I'm planning on doing is doing a reverse slope defense, which basically means that I'm pulling back. And the reason why that's the case is because my enemy really has one of two avenues of approach that can really come at me now at this point. They can either come down this main causeway here, which will cause them a bottleneck right there between these two structures, in which case I have my guys behind cover, open fire on them, and take them out one at a time. And at the same time, my own opponent could also come all the way through this opening here as well, which means that if I hang back, I can shoot him as he crosses the battlefield to come and get me. So that part is pretty nice as well. Now, granted, Dark Lord Mac could start clamoring upon the third access point, which is through this fuel depot, but if he does that, though, I'll be shooting at him the entire time as well. Meanwhile, over here on the left-hand side, you see Emerista, Day Catalyst. He drops down, moves up to normal movement allowance, and then climbs down as well. The reason why is because if Phyrexian Unclean is still injured, seriously injured in the next turn, I plan on actually having him charge directly into him and put a coup de grace on him, and then hopefully go over there and take out Fiddlesticks as well. Meanwhile, the last activation I made so far was Sheik Shabazz. Sheik Shabazz is a group activation with Mayday. Both these guys open fire directly into Septimus. Unfortunately for Mayday, she missed her shot. However, my other fighter, Sheik Shabazz, was able to hit Septimus, push him back an inch as well, but my second shot with my fast start ability, though, I missed. So because of that, he's perfectly fine. He's just currently pinned right now. And that pretty much makes up the activations thus far in turn number 2. So for the rest of the action phase of turn number 2, the rest is pretty much several activations afterwards. So let's go ahead and talk about what ended up happening. So first of all, my buddy Dark Lord Mac activates Rodicus. Rodicus does a basic action, does his fast shot ability to fire his grenade launcher twice, firing smoke grenades directly over to the left-hand side of the fuel depot, obscuring the shots from most of my fighters. So because of that, none of them have telescopic infrared sights, so they really can't shoot. So for the most part, their actions are pretty much non-consequential for the most part. However, from there, I then decided to activate Preston Garvey. Now, Preston Garvey does have an infrared sight on his long rifle. He decides to open fire twice with this fast shot ability. The first shot actually managed to hit Rodicus, putting an out cold result on him as well, putting him out of action. So net first blood to me as well. I do try to shoot Septimus, but fortunately for me though, for my second shot, I missed my shot. However, when it came to Septimus real quick, for Dark Lord Mac real fast, Septimus on the other hand, on the side, did a simple action to get back on his feet again and move up forward as quickly as he possibly can. And as you can see right there, the other fighter there, Pustus, he gets activated next, but since he was on the blaze condition, he just fled 9 inches directly to the center of the battlefield for the most part, and he is currently hiding out there. So with the action phase over with, for turn number 2, we go directly to the end phase. So going into the end phase for turn number 2, unfortunate for me, Abralista Day Rain Catalyst, unfortunate for her, succumb to her wounds. So because she does go out of action. At the same time, so does Thrax the Unclean. He also succumbs to his wounds and also goes out of action as well. Meanwhile, the other two fighters who are over here who are broken in the very back corner. Let me go and zoom in for you guys so you can see them. They're still broken. They have not recovered their cool test, and they're going to be staying over there for a while yet. And of course, both gangs did pass their bottle test, so no harm, no foul there. So with turn number 2 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 3, and both Dark Lord Mac and I roll off for initiative to see which of us has priority. And that takes us directly to the top of turn number 3, and Dark Lord Mac managed to get the initiative on this one. So the Corpse Grinder Guild, Nurgle Corrupted Guild, will be going first. So for your very first activation, Dark Lord Mac decided to activate Fecula Flyblown. We used her Commanding Presence ability, or a group activation ability to activate Gerlach, as well as our Overseer ability to activate the Wretchling. So the Wretchling goes first, and he has a fast shot ability, so he fires his grenade launcher 4 times opening fire with smoke grenades all 4 times. As you can see, he puts 2 shots right over here, 1 shot over here, so it's a good smoke screen to protect my guys from actually shooting at his advancing party. At the same time, he also puts a shot directly right in front of the bridge here with a smoke grenade. We ran out of smoke columns. We only have 4 of them in our studio, so we used a blast template to represent a smoke column going up to the front, and then we put the other 2 shots over here on this field of fire, so that way my guys from over here can't really shoot all too easily directly at the corpse grinder guild. Now, interestingly enough, the next thing that ended up happening is because the group activation, Gerlach moves forward as maximum allowance, doing double moves forward, and goes directly right to the base of that smoke column, so that way he doesn't get shot at by anybody. Now, that goes directly to my next activation. I then activate Scabs. Scabs actually takes a basic action aim with his plasma gun and opens fire directly onto the fighters who are over here for the Corpse Guild. As you can see, I managed to hit Festus as well as Pestus. Managed to put a hit injury on Pestus, so because that he will lose 1 to his intelligence as well as 1 to his willpower and goes directly out of action. At the same time, managed to hit Septimus as well, putting an out of cold reaction on him. So because of that, he also goes out of action as well. So things are not looking very good right now for Dark Lord Mac. I'm starting to slow down his advance and whittle away his forces as well. So continuing on with the action phase of turn number 3, first of all we have Festus over here. Now you'll notice Festus has 2 flesh wounds on him. I forgot to mention, Scab's got 3 shots off, so he's able to hit all 3 of those guys down there. Managed to put 2 flesh wounds directly onto Festus, what ended up happening for him. So Festus actually moves out, gets a simple action to get back on his feet again to Scab pinning, does another simple action to go behind the smoke column. Meanwhile, the rest of his gang over here, as you can see with Reek as well as Erg, those guys move up as quickly as they can, try in order to get over, Bubo and Reek, I'm sorry. They move up as quick as they can, using the smoke screen as cover. They also did exactly the same thing with Dire Song moving up forward as well. And at the same time, you'll notice Tulak the Broken is running, and we'll talk about exactly why that occurred here in a second. Now, meanwhile, for the rest of my turn, for a couple of activations for my guys, I actually start moving my guys back. As you can see, Crimson Wind starts moving back over here as well. At the same time, I start taking Mayday, as well as Trixie, as well as Sheik Shabazz. I move them over to this area so that way I can drop down the ladder and also engage my opponents coming over here from the right-hand side as well. At the same time, I then activate Deadhead Lee, who then goes around the corner, opens fire with a supercharged shot with his plasma rifle directly into Dire Song. Managed to hit him and put a serious injury on him as well, which caused Tulak the Broken to take a break test. And unfortunately for my buddy Dark Lord Mac, he failed his nerve test, so because that Tulak the Broken runs back, I think 9 inches directly to the back next to that hedgehog, so he is currently running for the hills at this point. So as you can see here, for the most part, my gang is pretty much settled for the most part, and I'm just going to be basically shooting Dark Lord Mac's gang to pieces. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, that my buddy Dark Lord Mac decides to call a game. He realizes he's going to lose a lot more fighters trying to go forward. I have really good defensive positions. There's no way he's going to be able to pull off his losses on this one, and that ends this game as well as this campaign. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the post game because this game is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, so moving on to the post game, we have Soylent Green for injuries. They actually suffered 4 injuries in this one. Rodicus as well as Sepsimus both suffered out cold results. They make full recoveries no problem. Thrax the Unclean makes a full recovery, and Pestis suffers head injury with -1 intelligence as well as -1 willpower. Now, during the Dark Ritual, they used Tulak the Broken as the vessel for the ritual and passed it, and still retained the blessings of Nurgle, and also gave 5 experience points to Tulak the Broken. For advancements, Tulak the Broken leveled to level 5, earning +1 to his strength and earning 30 credits to his value as well. Now his gang, Dark Lord Mac's gang, is still currently at 13 points reputation. His new record now is at 4 wins and 7 losses, and his new gang rank now is at 2,940 points. As for my game, the Gung-Ho Guns, I suffered 2 injuries on this one. Mad Teddy suffered a humiliating injury, which means loses 1 point to his leadership and -1 point to his cool. And Arbalesta ran Catalyst, my hired gun. She makes a full recovery, no problem. Now, as for advancements on this one, Crimson Wind leveled to level 3, earning +1 to his willpower and also increasing his value by 20 points. For reputations, I do manage to earn 2 points reputation for the scenario, bringing my grand total to 12 points in reputation in total. My new record now is at 2 wins and 3 losses, and my new gang rank now is at 3,035 points. So now that we're done talking about the post game for both these gangs, let's go ahead and talk about the campaign overall and see exactly where everybody's stacked up. Alright, so now it's time for the campaign after action report. So this is our current ranking, and like I said at the beginning of this campaign, the overall winner was going to be determined by whoever had the most points reputation. So as you can see in this chart right in front of you, my buddy Dark Lord Mac is the winner of our Into the Bad Zones campaign. He managed to score 13 points reputation, beating me by 1 point, but that 1 point was all he needed in order to elevate himself to glory. So just like that, Soylent Green, his Nurgle corrupted corpse skilled outcast, has pulled off the victory and conquered the Badzones of Hive Primus. At the same time, he also earned the Outland Raider triumph as well, so adding insult to injury to all of us for attacking all of our settlements. Now in second place is my gang with the Gung-Ho guns, my house Escher Outcast gang. I managed to get 12 points reputation, but my opponent still beat me by 1, so because of that, he still won. However, I did earn 2 triumphs in this one, though. I earned the Lord of the Bad Zones triumph because I had the most developed settlement with my settlement of Martyr's End. At the same time, I also earned the Master of Coin triumph because I had the most wealth for my gangs at 3,045 credits, so that part was absolutely fantastic. In third place is my sister Shade with Mercator Umbris, her clanless outcast gang. She managed to end up with 9 reputation, and I managed to earn the Outland Defender triumph. And then finally in fourth place is my little sister the Kiddo with her gang, the Children of the Vault, her cold traded outcast gang with 5 reputation, and she also earned the Scavenger triumph as well. So that part was absolutely fantastic. And big shout out to my friends, by the way. Big ass shout out to Dark Lord Mac, Shade, and the Kiddo for taking extra time out of their busy schedule to double up on Necromunda gaming. Wargaming, as you guys are fully aware, is a very time consuming. It eats up a lot of time, and my sisters and my friend Dark Lord Mac took time out of their busy schedules to help me make this campaign. I was really interested in doing an Outlanders campaign, and my 2 sisters and my friend decided, hey, we'll go ahead and, dedicate our time to this to make this campaign happen. And so because of that, that's the only reason why this campaign was able to take place, because my friends decided to double up on it. So thank you very much, you guys, for your extra support in this campaign. I had an awesome time arbitrating it for you guys, and this campaign is definitely dedicated to you guys because you made it all kinds of awesome, which is totally fantastic. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, now that we're done talking about the current gang rankings and who overall won overall, let's go ahead and do an after action report talking about an Outlanders campaign in general. So let's talk about an after-action report for Into the Bad Zones, our Necromunda Outlanders campaign. This Outlanders campaign was straight up amazing. It consisted of 17 battle reports spanning 11 different weeks. So let's go ahead and talk about the pros and cons of running an Outlanders campaign for your future Necromunda games. So for pros, right off the bat, Outcast games are extremely versatile and can bring the pain on the tabletop with more experience and better equipped fighters starting out than normally created gangs. However, they do have some severe drawbacks. They're not very large in most cases and struggle with their psychology stats as willpower as well as cool. So if you choose to do an Outcast gang, keep that in mind. At the same time, the campaign is a lot of fun with tons of variety for your settlement with powerful boons to match, and at the same time being able to heal fighters, build up defenses, and hire mercenaries was a real treat in this campaign, and I highly recommend it. The campaign settlement kind of makes it a little bit more endearing, kind of like Fallout 4 kind of, and that kind of vibe, building up your settlements. Now there are some cons when it comes to an Outlanders campaign. There's only 6 Outlander scenarios, and it would be kind of nice to get some more variety in the future. As you guys saw, after a while we're just kind of like doubling up on most of these scenarios in most cases, so having a larger variety of scenarios would actually be kind of nice. At the same time, generating income is also extremely challenging in this campaign system. A lot of the scenarios do not offer credits at all for rewards. It's only a resource to use to build up your settlements. So my suggestion as an arbitrator is to add more variety of credit rewards to your own scenarios, so that way your players can build up their gangs much faster in that shorter period of time. At the same time, I could also see using the settlement mechanic and combining it with a Dominion or an Ash Waste campaign in order to solve this problem of lack of income, and if you decide to do an Outlander campaign. A Dominion campaign will help with generating income for your gangs, and at the same time actually gives you a base for your settlement that you actually start off that campaign with, so that'd be kind of cool. And at the same time, using this in an Ash Waste campaign will help give you territory boons that you normally don't get in that campaign system, and at the same time it kind of gives you a base of operations to operate out of when you're out in the Ash Waste, so that part was kind of cool. So this is going to wrap up our limited series of Into the Bad Zones. In the end, this was a fantastic campaign, and once again, I highly recommend playing with your gaming group. And once again, a big shout out to Dark Lord Max, Shade, as well as the Kiddo for taking extra time out of their busy schedules to help generate this content for this channel as well. Now, we do want to do other campaigns in the future. We do want to do an Uprising campaign as well as a Law and Misrule campaign. Unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of time because Miniatures Wargame, as you can tell, eats up a lot of time. I also work, my friends work as well, so getting together is kind of hard to do that in most cases. So we will still be running our unofficial Ashways campaign, Anarchy Road, for now until the Book of the Ashways drops. There's no point in actually doing an Ashways campaign if we have no rules to make our own custom vehicles. So because of that, we'll be doing our unofficial one, but once the official rules have dropped, then we'll run a proper campaign using that as well. And with the Into the Bad Zones concluded, we are planning to run our Blood Bowl League next with Season 2 of Tales from the Tackle Zone. As you guys are aware, we've painted up 12 different teams and divided them into 2 leagues, and keep your eye out for future Blood Bowl content in the future. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on the YouTube community tab, Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.